Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Full Funnel Live. As we mentioned last week, we are going to invite our upcoming Full Funnel Summit speakers, and today we have CEO of Dapper, Tycho Luijten. Oh, Vlad, you wanted to say it in Flemish?
I wanted to practice my Flemish. I didn't have a lot of chance. Tycho Luijten, is that
Wow, very
comes
good.
close?
Beautiful.
So, if you guys probably some of you I feel are following him on LinkedIn, but for you who maybe didn't hear about Tycho and Dapper, these guys are honestly crushing with video content. And I remember, like, once I saw the first video about that the guys have produced, it reminded me. My good friend Todd Clauser, who was running the worst marketer in the world. So it was like the first video that I have seen was about the wolf from the Wall Street. And why is it one of my favorite movies? And quite often I use the examples from that movie to kind of call out the absurdity that we see in sales and basically in B2B marketing and sales. And the guys created just the brilliant video, all of that stuff about AI taking the job and Tycho is going gardening. So lots of that stuff. It's really cool. So what we're going to do today, we're going to break down their framework. We are going to dig deeper a little bit into video content production, right? The resources, the costs, also how to persuade your leadership, right? Especially if you are acting, if you are working for the conservative company where kind of being creative it can fire back, right? Let's put it like this. So lots of these things. As always, you are very welcome to ask any questions and let us know, guys, where you all join us from today. Type in the chat your city and country. We are broadcasting with Vlad from sunny Spain. Tycho, where you said you are now?
Cape Town, South Africa.
Cape Town, nice. It's quite historically, quite a famous place for the Dutch people, right?
Yeah. It's not necessarily a part of history that we're proud of, but it is. It's nevertheless a beautiful place to be, and it's actually the first time that I'm here, and I'm in a house with a bunch of entrepreneurs from all over the world. So we have a beautiful house overlooking the a mountain and the sea. So yeah, I feel very lucky to be able to work from here.
Great. Awesome. So, with that being said, let's do the stress testing of the niche famous framework. Vlad, where should we start?
I think we should go back to 1993 and look at Tycho in action. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
1993.
Let me do a quick share because I think there is no better introduction for people who haven't seen you. Let's look at that.
I just don't hear sound. Without sound, it's also really cool.
Sound. Okay, we are not having sound. This is what happens when you're trying to stream something, right? What do you do? Do you do it without a sound or with sound?
You can do it without sound. You can do it without sound. I think the idea is clear, right? So basically, what we did here is we redid one of the most famous movie scenes there is, which is of course the starting scene of Pulp Fiction, and instead of John Travolta telling about his trip to Europe, I'm telling about my trip to B2C marketing and how it's different from B2B marketing. And this video blew up. I mean, we've had a couple of these movie remakes, and this one had millions of views on LinkedIn alone, which is something. Well, millions of impressions, I should say. I don't know how many views, but millions of impressions, which is kind of unheard of on LinkedIn, right? So yeah, that's what we're looking at. And if you listen it with sound, you'll of course hear the dialogue, but also the sound of the radio in the background playing. So we tried to mimic the actual scene as much as possible. We got an old car to make it even, so nothing is green screen. It's like an old American car that we used. But yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Nice. So where I think we need to start, Vlad shared the link in the chat, so you guys can definitely go and visit Tycho's profile. There are lots of video clips you'll
Yep.
need to watch. I think all of them are fun, and what I love is that it's just kind of a call out of all the absurdity we observe today in B2B marketing. So they're all
That's right.
spot on. But
Thank
what
you.
you're welcome. And thank you for creating this. So where I want to start, at our summit, you're going to present the niche famous framework, as you call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to leave it for the summit, obviously. And for you guys, we'll drop the link in the chat. You can sign up for free. This framework stands for how to raise brand awareness in a specific market, right? And
Exactly.
specifically for Dapper, you use the same framework to grow from 7 people in 2022, right?
Yeah.
To like 63 people according to LinkedIn.
We're about 60, 65 people right now. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So walk us through what you actually changed in your growth strategy and what steps did you take in these 4 years that help you to grow?
Yeah. More than happy to talk about that. It's a very exciting journey. So when I started this agency, we had this goal of building a global agency. We already knew that when we were a team of 2 people, my co-founder and I. We wanted to build something big. And even though we had that vision, the first couple of years were very slow. So we hired a bunch of very good people, great marketers, but we already hit the plateau when we were with about 6 or 7 people. And at that moment, I was wondering, why do companies not come to us, right? When they need a marketing agency? Obviously, it's a very full market. It's very crowded. But also, simply people didn't know us, right? So we tried to do some Google Ads, capture some intent. We tried to do some outreach, but all of that didn't really work because it was very hard for us to compete with all the other agencies basically asking for that business. And we were small and not that legitimate yet. So then I thought, okay, you know what? We have this amazing group of people. What if simply more people know about us? What if simply people know us and know how amazing we are and what we can do for them so that they come to us when they need us, right? And I know this is marketing 101, but that's what this framework is all about. It's really, really about going back to the fundamentals and making it stupid simple. So what I did is I started off identifying the group of people that we could help best, right? The ICP, if you will. So in our case, we wanted to be the number 1 B2B agency of the Netherlands. That was like our first goal before going to that next goal, which was like building a global agency, which is what we're doing right now, right? But back then, we first wanted to be the number 1 B2B agency in the Netherlands. So we identified our ICP, which were B2B marketers at scale-ups in a certain revenue range, just in the Netherlands. And then we realized that group of people that all need to know and trust us, that's about a group of 20K people in the Netherlands, not more than that. 20K people. If all these people know us, trust us, know what we can do for them, have us top of mind whenever they think of an agency, then business should come to us. So we identified that niche and we started making content. And for us back then, we didn't have a lot of options because we didn't have any advertising budget. We didn't have any media budget. So we decided to just start posting on LinkedIn, which back then wasn't as popular as it is now. It was already done, of course, but LinkedIn wasn't as crowded as it was back then. And we just started posting. We started sharing valuable information for B2B marketers. So nothing was commercial, but it was all value driven. B2B marketing tips, just like you guys are doing, of course. And we decided to go for video content. Why video content? Because I believe that there's no type of content that builds recognition and trust like video content does. Of course, I'm biased because I like video content also, and I don't mind being in front of the camera. But I think if somebody reads 10 posts of you as compared to watching 10 videos of you, the recognition and trust is much higher for that person that watched 10 videos of you than that one that read 10 posts of you. So we decided to double down on video. We started making videos. We started posting on LinkedIn, not just myself, but also my co-founder, all the other colleagues in the business. And all of a sudden, we started getting inbound leads. In 2022, when we just started doing this and it didn't have an effect yet, we grew 20%. The year after, we grew 100%. The year after, we grew 80%. The year after, we grew 80%, with the majority of inbound coming from our content and from our LinkedIn strategy, basically. So that's just in a nutshell how we went from 7 people to where we are today, which is a very healthy agency of 65 people and a lot of inbound leads all the time. So I would say that's the one bottleneck that agencies have, which is marketing and sales, we kind of cracked with our marketing strategy.
If you don't mind, I just have a very quick follow-up I wanted to ask, because you mentioned the video content, right? And you wanted to stand out. In 2022, I remember there was a boom of talking heads video content, if you know what I mean. So obviously Chris Walker, he was leading the stage. The videos were good, but then a lot 100%. Of people started copying that format, right? So you as a founder or as a CEO, you talk to the people. And for me, at one point, we were just discussing this with Vlad, and I said, I feel that everybody is doing this because Chris is getting traction and everybody wants to copy this. So what I want to ask you, how did you come up with this idea of creating these videos that you are publishing right now, all these scenarios, right, calling out all of that stuff? So walk through this hypothesis.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because indeed what I realized at a certain moment, and this was about 2 years ago, the moment you open LinkedIn, but also the moment you open Instagram and any other channel, you see dudes in front of a podcast mic trying to say something smart, right? And I'm like, if everybody does that constantly, my goodness, it's going to be so hard to stand out, right? And I still do it. And I still get business out of it also, but I also wanted to innovate. I wanted to break the pattern of what people see on LinkedIn. And I realized that humor is very much under leveraged on LinkedIn, and entertainment is very much under leveraged. So what I believe is that people are on social media to laugh or to learn, right? And that also applies to LinkedIn. People are on social media to see something that makes them laugh or that they can learn from, something educational or something entertaining, basically. And these are broad categories, right? Entertaining can also be relatable or something that makes you laugh just a little bit, not something hilarious. That it's a broad category. So I realized, okay, you know what? Why don't we try to create funny content that is attention grabbing in a different way, and while it is funny, it should also convey a message that we understand B2B marketing, right? And this is an interesting playing field, because all of a sudden we could do much more than what we did before, and we started thinking of movie scenes and other recognizable situations. And so it started off with the realization we don't have to always make talking head videos. We can also do something else, because what I believe when it comes to content, you want to optimize for grabbing attention first. So if you grab the attention of your prospect, after that, you have a little window of time in which you can tell your prospect, you have a problem that I can solve. If you don't succeed in grabbing the attention of your prospect, you don't have that little window of time. So first of all, your content should grab attention. And again, I think you can do that with educational stuff, or you can do that with entertaining stuff. And that's why we chose that different routes to explore the entertaining content as well.
I like
That's
this.
my girlfriend, by the way.
There was a very nice question here that I'd like to just use as a follow-up, and although we have foreseen it a little bit later, because you said something, first of all, like, okay, you have to get known. They call it in B2B, how do they call it? Brand marketing, right?
Brand or awareness.
You have to be known, as you said in the video, you have to be known before they can even, of course,
consider you. Exactly.
Think of you and consider you, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you said something else. For us to be able to get known, we need to grab their attention. We need to stand out. You and Andrei were chatting about the talking heads versus the more entertaining videos, and that was kind of your way to stand out. Now, we have an interesting question here from Carrie, and I'd like to share it very briefly on the screen. What if you're in an old school industry? How creative do you think you can get? And I just like to kind of like make this question a little bit broader, because I think you said yourself, it's not necessarily just about humor, entertainment, and being creative in the way that you guys are. I think it's about standing out, and then also with respect to your industry. So
100%.
Please go ahead. How do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I think that first of all, in any industry, we're dealing with people, right? And that person that is a financial controller or a security officer or an IT manager is also just a normal person that scrolls on the internet, right? That scrolls on Instagram, right? That follows TikTok trends, that appreciates humor and appreciates creativity. It's not that that IT manager is an IT manager 24 hours a day, right? So I think that in any case, you can speak to people with a little bit of humor. And of course, it should fit your brand identity, even though I think you can push the boundaries there also, usually a little bit. But I think that considering B2B industries traditional is already a mistake in reasoning, because generally B2B marketing was thought of serious and professional and a little bit of vanilla. And now and B2B agencies used to be like that as well. And we're now changing that. So isn't that possible in other industries as well then? So I think that generally in a lot of industries, we treat the other the person that we're trying to reach as a corporate entity that you should treat in a certain way, not with too much creativity, not with too much humor. We're going to be very careful. While I believe that in the end, we're not marketing towards a corporate entity, such a cliche, but it's true. We're marketing towards a person in that corporate entity, right? And usually that person appreciates humor, appreciates creativity. So I think we can push the boundaries there a little bit in whichever industry. And funny can also be witty. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it like we do, which is with cursing and joking about illegal substances. And, we push it really far. But also there, we're going further and further. And the only thing that I'm seeing is that people like it more. So yeah, I think generally we can also in traditional industries, we can push the boundaries a little bit.
I think there was kind of a second question behind that question, because one thing is, like you said, you're marketing to people. People come, the same people hang out on Instagram and watch entertain or YouTube or whatever, and watch more entertaining videos and content. But the other, I think, aspect there is you're in a conservative industry, so you need to take care of the prospects, but you also need to take care of your executives or whomever is paying your check, right? So you need to get their permission to stand out, to be more creative. So I wonder how actually, like when you are with a client and you're pitching them a different way of marketing, how do you go about that? How do you get their buy-in?
Yep. Well, the great thing is that usually companies come to us because they have seen our content. And they see our content and they see what's possible if you spice it up a little bit, right? So usually they come to us and say, hey, what you guys are doing for you, can you also do that for us? And these are not like the typical type of companies that you would expect, right? These are for a compliance software, for instance, or HR tech or cybersecurity. And then I tell them, well, we don't have to do exactly what we do, but I'm very happy that you want a little bit more of that creativity and potentially humor in your content. Now, what I would say that if you have to pitch towards your CEO, that you want to think outside the box a little more, and that you want to add a little bit of creativity, what I would do is I would find examples of companies who do this successfully, right? And what you will see is that there's a lot of examples of companies that do content right. And a lot of them understand content in a way where they either apply youth educational content really, really well, or they have, or they understand entertaining content really, really well. So if you use these examples of companies that do well, I've learned that is basically the best way to persuade any type of C-level to start doing it, or to be open to it, right?
And if you guys don't mind, I just kind of quickly, everything that we have discussed, it reminded me about like one anecdote. it was from 8 years ago, so it's quite mind blown. But it was like the first like fully structured documented ABM campaign we did. It was one of the first clients that we worked with, and the part of the engagement strategy, there were like some follow-ups with the engaged accounts, and I still have emails just to show maybe quickly my screen, because we were targeting tech companies, mostly SaaS tech companies. I forgot the industry, but these were companies 10 plus K employees. So we were targeting senior leadership. So just to quickly share my screen, we have the copy of this email just to show you, and it's all about the humor, right? So while kind of the campaign was educational and a lot of stuff was going on about talking about specific use case, etc., one of the last email follow-ups we had, it was coming, you see Anna, one of the BDRs, but the entire point was like, for example, we used just something like, bonjour, I'll be honest, I emailed you last week and didn't get a reply, and I'm well, that made me sad. Anyway, I can deal with it, but not our Mr. Broccoli, he had a heart attack, right? So if you can hit reply, even if it's telling me to politely go away, it would save his life. At least I'll tell him that you responded, fingers crossed, right? So, and then we had software lover, broccoli lifeguard, right? Something like this. Well, long ago, but as you can see, two of these follow-ups, brought the discovery calls. So even just had this anecdote that even in super conservative verticals, and like you said, targeting the piece 100%. Of ITs, etc., you can still do it well. So
no, 100%. And you know what? People just like to be treated as humans, right? So a lot of these ads that I see of B2B companies, because I look at ads of B2B companies every single day, right? And most of the ads look like ads, and that's fine and it makes sense. But if all your ads look like ads, what are people going to do? People are going to scroll over it, right? The first response to an ad is that you want to scroll over it or you want to skip it, right? If you have YouTube and you see this, you have this pre-roll, the only thing that you're doing is you're waiting and you're kind of clicking on that button that goes 5, 4, 3, 2. So our natural instinct when we see an ad is that we want to click or scroll over it. So if we make our content more human, less commercial, less complex words and sentences, it's most likely going to be more effective. And this goes for every single industry, right? And that doesn't mean that there's no time and place for long form content, in-depth content, more serious content, professional content. If you look at the content of Dapper also, a part are the funny videos. Funny of these perform the best. Like I must have posted 500 videos over time, or maybe 1,000 videos over time, just like this, a talking head video in which I say something interesting about B2B marketing. So I did a lot of that. None of them ever went viral. With the funny video content, almost every single video goes absolutely viral. And that also says something, right? And we have a bunch of leads that come in referring to the funny content, even though B2B marketing is a serious topic, right? There's a lot of complexity in it. I also make podcasts, longer form, like this, but just me, myself, and I, just for 50 minutes talking about B2B marketing. So I think there's a time and place for both serious, long form, in-depth content, but also more short form, entertaining, witty content. And I think that B2B marketers generally understand that long form content better. But that short form, more engaging content is something that a lot of B2B companies haven't really discovered yet, what the power of that can be.
I think you're touching onto something interesting here and related to a question we got in meantime. And what I'm hearing you say is like, look, you have to get the attention and, standing out, doing things differently, being creative in whatever way is appropriate and, you can pull off is going to help you with that. There is also time for long-term content. But I think like in general, this question is interesting from Daniel. How do you ensure, like once you capture the attention, is there anything that you do to make them act beyond capturing their attention, maybe following you because you make funny videos, but how does that translate into business?
Yeah. So there was this report from, was it 6 Sense not too long ago, where it stated that in 81% of the cases nowadays across industries, across B2B industries, the buyer reaches out to the vendor, right? In 81% of the cases. what does that mean? Usually a buyer reaches out to the vendor when the moment is right. So something happens, a trigger happens in the organization. A company gets hacked, for instance, they need a cybersecurity solution. A company's marketing underperforms, or a marketer leaves, they need a marketing agency. Trigger, after that, a company is in market. What happens when a company is in market? They either look for companies that they don't know yet. So they start Googling, start using ChatGPT, asking peers, browsing websites of different vendors. They're in market and you can capture them, right? On the other hand, they think of the companies they already know and trust, and they reach out to these companies. So what I believe marketing should do is either be there where and when your prospect searches for a solution with a compelling story of why they should reach out to you, or it should make your prospects aware of your existence and what you do and why you can be trusted, so they come to you when they need you, right? But in any case, I believe that. So let's zoom in on that educational content. We're not forcing any behavior from the prospect, right? We're just making sure that when a trigger happens internally, our company is top of mind. So what does our content need to do? Let's dissect it a little more. Our content needs to grab and keep attention, right? That's the first one. We talked about that already. You can do that with educational content or funny content. Grab and keep attention, but it also needs to make clear what you do, why you're different, why you can be trusted, right? So if your content does that, if your content grabs attention and makes clear what you do, why you can be trusted, then your prospect will think of you and act when they need you. But that can only happen when there's a trigger, right? That's what I believe in. I think you cannot force people through a funnel. You can't. I mean, if you like, in most cases, it doesn't really work like that, right? In most cases, something has to happen internally in a company which makes them in market, and then they act, right? So you cannot get them to act. They will act when the moment is right, and you need to make sure that you're findable with a good story, or that you're already top of mind at that moment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And actually, it leads us to one of the most important parts, right? Long-term marketing. But now is the funny story, and I really want to hear your opinion. So,
sure.
I recall the conversation with one of the CMOs working for our clients, and she said, I can present data like industry best practices, examples, and my colleagues in sales, in leadership, CFO, for example, as well, they just say, I don't agree with your data, end of conversation. And CRO says, like, come on, here are our revenue targets. I don't care how you are going to do it, but I need to have these targets. I need to, like, you to work on these short-term targets, right? So for everything that we are discussing, these are kind of long-term brand plays. How do you get buy-in when leadership basically wants the pipeline created yesterday?
Yeah. So I always think you should try to balance it out, right? I totally understand also the leadership wanting results right now. And I think if you want results right now, you need to focus on things that can get results right now, right? Next to long-term brand and demand play. So if possible, run high intent Google ads on properly converting landing pages. Have your outbound motion, things that have an effect on the short term, which buys you time for the long term, if possible, right? Because the only thing that you can do is say, okay, there are a lot of companies that are successful in it, and and that's basically what you can do, right? Because if you don't have any historic data about this long-term approach working, then the only thing that you can do is give an example of other companies and why it works for them and maybe the theory behind it, but that's it. And then other than that, it's basically a risky investment for the company, because it's something that they invest in right now and might get a return on in half a year, 9 months, or 12 months from now, which is also not guaranteed, because it has to be good content, it has to be good distribution. So I would say, if your leadership hasn't felt the impact yet of what you can call becoming niche famous or demand gen or building a brand, whatever you call it, right? It's all relatively similar. Then just give the right examples of companies that have done it in the past, give the theory behind it. And in the meantime, try to keep them happy with some things that might get results on the short to midterm. Google Ads, direct outbound, stuff like that. I think that's the only thing that you can do. And the moment that they realize, oh shit, most of our leads are now coming from LinkedIn, and these leads that are coming from LinkedIn, they're much warmer because they've seen us 100 times. So the sales conversation, it's good for sales velocity. As soon as they start realizing the power of that, then I think they'll say, okay, let's double down on content. Let's double down on LinkedIn, and anything that has to do with building brand and demand on the longer term.
I think there is just quick 2 cents there, because we often hear from sales that they say, hey, you know what? I've been trying to reach out to these prospects. I've been trying to, get the attention of those accounts, and it's really difficult. They don't know us. They're just ignoring my messages, essentially. And they're saying that nowadays, with so much automation, AI, and everything, it's even more difficult. So it doesn't even matter how well your message might be written, personalized, or whatever. They're basically saying if they don't know you, they're just going to ignore your messages. So what we hear often is that sales is the one who is asking for awareness. In other words, right? We are not aware. Our brand, our prospects are not aware of our brand. It's hard to get the attention. And also they're saying when we do get the attention, that's the second part, what you were saying, like it's important for you not only to be there when the business trigger is there, when they're actually looking to buy, but actually, according to various studies, is like recently there was Pavilion, I believe, and Trust Radius published this, that 4% of especially enterprise buyers will select a vendor they discovered before they start buying.
Exactly.
In other words,
exactly.
You are increasing the chance of ending up in that consideration set if you're known before,
100%.
right? So in other words, also like how does that translate into pure practical sales experience? We also hear from sales, we are losing out on brand. In other words, what that means is that we get somehow the meeting with the prospect, they're in the market, but our buying committee doesn't want to choose a brand that they didn't know. Like we're losing out on brand against other brands that are more known. So being known, in other words, is directly linked to these sales outcomes and sales KPIs, if you like. Have you ever done
100%.
any work directly with sales, which is something that we often do and experience, is like, you know what, let's not go immediately company-wide, organization-wide, but how about just working with one salesperson and helping them increase the awareness, get more meetings booked, get more pipeline generated and revenue? Is that something you have ever done or have experience with?
Yes, yes, we do. And before I respond to that, just to emphasize the importance of what you just said, oftentimes what happens is that a buyer will book an exploratory call or start an exploratory process with 3, 4, or 5 vendors, right? Because this is just company policy. But the buyer already has a preference because of all the marketing touch points over the years, right? So usually what I see is that the sales process is used as a way to confirm the preference that they already had. Not always, but very often this is the case. And because their boss asks them to look at 3, 4, or 5 vendors, they will do it, but very often they end up with the company that they already knew and trusted before they started the sales conversation. Now, to your second question, do we ever help or work directly with sales, right? Yes, we do. We, for instance, something that we really like doing is to build the personal brands of subject matter experts or thought leaders, whatever you call it, within organizations. And pretty often they are salespeople. Not always. I like to work the most with the most senior people in the organization, but oftentimes from a commercial perspective, it makes sense to help a sales rep build their personal profile. And we did this in various industries. So we did this, for instance, for fintech, where we ran a test with the founder and 2 sales reps. And we found that one sales rep was just great in front of the camera and he loved doing it. And he created great short thought leadership videos, which people liked in his industry. So we decided, okay, you know what? We're going to proceed with just that sales rep, and we're going to periodically create video content with that guy and help him build his personal brand with all kinds of written content on LinkedIn. And the content that performed, we boosted that with thought leadership ads. So their niche, their little niche of what is it, 10K people or something, very niche solution, saw this dude over and over and over again with great quality thought leadership content. And what we saw is that people started recognizing him on conferences, people started DMing him, and there, he all of a sudden marketing and sales clicked like this, right? It worked together very well. And we did the same in another industry. I mean, we did this for a lot of industries, but there are companies. But now 2 examples are coming up. The other one was basically a hardware for the process industry, so also a very traditional industry, and they made some type of device for the process industry. Now, you would think that this is not the most suitable industry, but still also here we found a sales rep that liked presenting, that wanted to do this program with us. We created a bunch of videos with him structurally, posted it on his LinkedIn page, boosted it to his niche target audience, and also he started getting leads out of that program. So these are just some examples of how we really directly worked together with sales rep on the marketing of themselves.
And I can just like confirm this, because this has been our experience as well. And what's cool about it as well is if you can do that, with one salesperson, maybe during a quarter or so, you can actually show the results quicker before you get the permission to scale this up to the wider organization, etc. There was a question that's very much related to your story about boosting the personal brand of subject matter experts, whether those are sales engineers or maybe executives, which I would just like to use this opportunity to follow up with.
Sure.
Let me just, I cannot, post not found. For some reason, I cannot share it, so I'm just going to read it from Chantal. She's saying, how do you ensure that companies actually start building personal brands, their employees themselves? I work with companies.
Okay. How do you ensure that companies actually start building personal brands? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, go ahead. I was just reading.
Good. She says that she works with companies in tech and admit this is such a hard job. People understand the power of branding, but building a personal brand, thought leadership, is a completely different discipline. So what do you say to that, Tycho?
Yeah, this is of course something that we have dealt with about 100 times, or maybe 1,000 times, like so often. I think there are a couple different things. First of all, what you can do as leadership is to manage expectations right from the start. So if you really think this is important, and if leadership understands it, why not add it to the job description? And as soon as you hire a sales rep or whatever role you might hire in the company, tell them, in this job, it is expected that you build a presence on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is an important driver of growth, of pipeline more specifically. So we expect you to share your thought leadership on LinkedIn. And if, and usually they won't go against it, right? Unless they really hate it. But if that is an agreement that you make all the way at the start of hiring somebody, and after that, you also base their performance on it, then it becomes a lot more real, right? Because right now it's really treated as an afterthought. It's treated as an extra, and everybody's busy, right? Everybody has to hit certain quotas, especially if we're talking about sales reps. They are super busy. They have a commission structure which motivates them to work on very specific things and not on any other things. So if you want people to do this, make it a core part of their job, I would say. Now, that is one thing, and that is something you would need leadership for. A second thing that you can do also here is show examples of other successful people in certain industries, and what it can do for them to help make their job easier. So what I do to new salespeople that I want to convince to post on LinkedIn and other companies, I show them the examples of successful cases that we have helped and what it has done for them as salespeople, how it has gotten them leads and made their work to convert clients a lot easier. Now, lastly, and this is maybe something that you can do if you have a slightly younger team. This is something that I have done in my business. In Q3 last year, I wanted to increase our thought leadership on LinkedIn. Not just me, not just some other colleagues who have done it already, but I wanted to basically have half of the company posting on LinkedIn. So I told everybody, if you guys start posting on LinkedIn right now and commit to 1, 2, or 3 times a week, there's a certain reward at the end of this quarter for people who post once, twice, or 3 times a week, which is like certain types of restaurant. With 3 times a week, we go to a super exclusive Michelin star restaurant. But also the first person to hit 3 likes of 3 posts of 100+ likes, they get a trip to London. And then you might think, oh, a trip to London, fancy dinners, wow, that's a lot of money. But if you get 20 people to post consistently on LinkedIn, that's hundreds of thousands of people that you reach, right? If you would advertise to reach that amount of people, it will be much more expensive endeavor, right? Then as soon as somebody hit the London target, we did a weekend to Paris, and as soon as somebody hit that, we did a weekend to Berlin. So, and that way, there's always this competition, and people wanting to post once, twice, or 3 times a week, and people going on cool trips as soon as they hit certain milestones, right? So that is also something that we do.
Very cool.
So, which brings us to one of the most popular questions. Literally, this question appears on the agenda every time we host a new episode of Full Funnel Live. It's all about attribution. So basically, how do you handle it? That's the first question, right? And you know the story, because typically companies, their attribution model is based on the last click. It's based on on the model marketing sourced versus sales sourced, right? And I remember, so maybe you can share also your example. I know that, for example, when you wrote a guest post for CXL, you mentioned that 60% of your leads are common, or let's say attributable to your niche famous framework. So let's kind of split it into 2 parts. How do you handle this, and how do you handle it with the clients? So marketers that are, let's say, spending money with you, they can prove that it brings ROI.
Yeah. So when it comes to our own marketing, it's very simple. It's what Chris Walker was also preaching in the early days of his LinkedIn fame, right? Which is self-reported attribution. So what I find is that there's nothing better yet than just simply asking leads where they saw us and why they reached out to us. And what I notice is that if I ask this, they usually have a very clear answer. It's either, I see you guys on LinkedIn all the time. And if that's the case, then I attribute them to LinkedIn, and then I cannot distinguish between people who saw us organically or people who we ran ads on, right? Because if I ask, did you see ads of us or posts? They say, I don't know if there are ads or posts, right? Which is a bummer, because I would have loved to also see if that money that I spent is justified. But I'm just assuming that it's justified because I have such a narrow and perfect targeting, and I know that I'm visible all the time because of these ads in my ICP. So, but that's the granularity, right? The only level that I can reach, which is basically, okay, did people see us on? Do people know us from LinkedIn? And right now, about 80% of the leads that come in know us from LinkedIn. So this is more and more leads proportionally see us from LinkedIn. Now, the other group of people say Google, right? And then it's also hard to distinguish between Google Ads and SEO. You can look at some of the data within Google Ads to try and figure it out. But the people who find us on Google, and then a fraction who sees us on who finds us on LLMs, for instance. So it's simply asking the question, where did you see us? And it's not enough to have it in your form on the website, because I mean, oftentimes people fill out the internet, right? Where did you find us? The internet. I'm like, thank you, great, that's fantastic. So we should do more of that, more internet stuff. But if we ask that question, if we ask some follow-ups, that works. So usually, if I can't get a clear answer, I ask them, where did you first see us? Where did you see us after, and why did you reach out to us? Like, ideally, I get answers to these 3 questions. And the great thing is I do it myself, right? I do sales together with 4 other people in the company, which allows me to ask these questions. But of course, if you're working together with salespeople, they do not sometimes want to sacrifice time in the sales call to ask these questions. But this is something you have to push for, and you might have to ask 100 times, even if it's just one simple question: how did you find us? Because it adds so much valuable data to your marketing, right? That's the answer for us. Now, what we do for clients also want leading indicators, right? Are we on the right trajectory? Now, what I love to look at are a couple metrics, or a couple things. One metric that I love to look at the start is dwell time, or percentage of video watched, right? Do people actually stop and scroll to watch your content? If people do not stop and scroll to watch your content, then we don't have their attention. If we don't have their attention, it's impossible for us to tell them that they have a problem that we can solve. So that's one of the first things that I look at. Now, when we look at because that's not enough for executives, right? They want to see some type of pipeline impact. And the most basic thing that we do is just have a look at the companies that we've reached with our LinkedIn ads and try to match it with the companies that they're talking to, right? And in that type of way, talk about influence pipeline, even though we, for instance, don't have a proper self-reported attribution setup, or leads did not reach out to the company yet. So this is basically what we do in the first couple months of the collaboration to show, hey, we're reaching the right companies. Oh, that's also one. We're reaching the right companies. The right companies are seeing our content. They're stopping to scroll to actually watch what we have to say. And these companies we're reaching most often. And hey, that matches with some of the companies that you're talking to. So these are the types of things that we do.
I love it. I think also, like, when you had the chance to work with a salesperson, that salesperson booking more meetings, or they might also be more interested to ask that question that you want them to ask, like, where did you hear about us? That 100%. Might be helpful as well, because their impact is more visible, easier to show to the executives, I think. Now, we spoke a lot about video, and I'm just curious from a very practical perspective. How does let's say the production, the content engine, if you like, how does it look like? The team, the process, the cadence, and the cost.
Yeah.
So maybe you are now at a certain level, right? You are now doing this for many, many years. You have a team. You're a professional. You're doing this also for your clients. So I'm curious to know, how does it look like at your level? But also, I'm interested to know for our audience. Let's say I'm a B2B company. Maybe I have a couple of people. I don't have an in-house creative studio. I might not have enough budget to hire an agency who will do this for us. What's kind of the minimal viable setup? So from your level, I don't know which level you are, to the minimal viable one.
Yeah. So maybe to start off with just the concept. What I believe is that content creation is only valuable if you do it consistently, right? At every single level, whether you create videos or just write posts or create infographics or whatever you do, it needs to be consistent. If you're visible every once in a while, it's never going to help you become top of mind, right? It's just like going to the gym and doing one rep and thinking, okay, that's it. You have to do it consistently. Now, for consistency, you need process. Because if you're going to wait for that good idea throughout the week before you start writing the post, then probably you're not going to write that post, right? Not if you're a person like me, who's all over the place sometimes. So what I believe is that you need structure on every single level for every type of content that you create, big or small. So whether you create one post a week or bi-weekly or even per month, you want to plan a block in your agenda for the same day at the same time, every single day, week, bi-weekly or monthly, so that it becomes a thing that you do at a certain time, right? Because another thing, content creation is never urgent, but it's always important. It's never the most pressing thing on your to-do list, right? Every morning when I sit down to write my post, I'm like, God damn it, I have 100 other things to do, and I have emails to answer, and I have important contracts to send out and whatnot. But still, I sit down to write that post because there's a block in my agenda that I commit myself to. Now, that's on the most basic level that everybody can do, right? But I also apply to other types of content creation. So, for instance, when it comes to video content creation, every other Sunday, and it's a Sunday because I'm the founder of the company, but you can also do it on a Friday or whichever day. But every other Sunday, I have a block in my agenda from 10 to 12, which is the moment I sit down with our videographer to record my thought leadership videos. Now, my videographer knows this because I don't have to text him, hey, be there at Sunday. I enter the office Sunday, 10 in the morning, and he's there, right? And everything is set up and we record the videos. And because I know that the day before I have to write the scripts, the day after I get the first edits, the day after I can post the first video, right? So the same happens with the creative videos. We post 2 creative videos per month now, these funny videos. I posted another one yesterday. These videos also have a cadence. once every month, we have what we call our hero video, which is for the brainstorm, it is a brainstorm of 2 hours in which we go from concept to initial script and planning in 2 hours. So we start that meeting and we have a backlog of ideas. We select one, we start brainstorming back and forth, my colleague and I, we get to a script, we divide the tasks, and we get to planning, right? Then we have another moment every single month at the same time, same day, for the lean and mean video, which is basically the video that you saw yesterday, which is a little bit more easy. We don't need as much for it. And basically the same process. Also 2 hours going from concept to planning. So as you can see, everything from a post to a simple video to the more complex video is a reoccurring thing. Same time, at the same day, same time, and the same type of process. And the only reason that we are able to create so much content is because we have that. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Very good. And I love it that you started with consistency, because I think there's a lot of teams who might start with a great idea, with kind of a New Year's resolution in terms of content, but either overthink it or make it complex as well. Okay, we need our content to be like whatever type of quality, etc., making themselves also very difficult to actually produce it regularly. So love that you started with that. That's a good framing. But I think, Andrei, you had another question. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I just wanted to ask several follow-up questions. So what we have discussed is the consistency, right, and the creative part. So this is fantastic, and I totally agree on the recurrent path of doing this, and just having this as your standard activity that you book in your calendar, right? So it's not like a random act of marketing, let's put it like this. So what I'm wondering, because I believe there would be questions from other people who are listening to us, resources that you need for this and the costs, right?
Yep. Okay. So it depends completely on how crazy you want to go, and also where you live, right? Because if you want a videographer in I don't know, Spain, it's going to be different than if you want a videographer in Romania, right? Or in the United States, it's going to be a lot more expensive. But I think that when you want to make video content, you could already do it with one shoot a quarter, where you create a shooting day, create scripts, let's say 12 scripts, and you arrange that you have a videographer for one day, and that videographer edits 12 videos, which means that you have a video for every single week for that specific quarter. That is already a setup that you can go for, right? Now, in that case, what do you need? You need a thought leader, or a subject matter expert, that person that you're going to put in front of the camera to say something interesting. And that person also needs to talk about or needs to give input for the content, right? So it's not the case that you're going to have somebody else write that content. That person is going to give input, and together with the person, you're going to create the script. So the availability of that person is probably the most important thing, because also if you don't have a cameraman, you do need that thought leader still. So that's for the first thing. Then you need a videographer, which can be pretty cheap, honestly. If you have a videographer for a day, you could have that maybe for $500 if you find somebody that does it for a good price, and then the editing maybe another $500. So you could have, theoretically, if you work with a young freelancer, you could do it for €1,000, right? You could also do it for €10,000 if you want to do it very professionally, which depends on where you are in your organization, but you could also do it for $1,000. And I think that the bottleneck is not necessarily the video or the videographer. I think the bottleneck is oftentimes the thought leader, right? Do we have somebody that wants to be in front of a camera and that actually has something interesting to say, and that we can count on a day like that to come prepared and is going to sit in front of the camera and record 12 videos, right? Now, what you also have to take into account is that if you're in B2B, you have a niche audience. That's why I call it the niche audience framework, because you don't want everybody to know you. You want a very specific group of people to see you constantly and to know you. you also want to run ads, right? So preferably you want to run thought leader ads from your personal account, which you also need to reserve depending on your TAM size, perhaps a couple grand a month. And I'm just giving an example now of how to approach it. If you want more creative videos, yeah, you can go big or small, right? Todd, I believe his name is, right, Andrei?
Yeah,
Todd does it super simple, right? He does like super simple, funny videos with him and himself. He plays the two characters. He does it with his phone. It doesn't cost anything. So that's also possible. And he has videos with hundreds of likes and 10,000 of people, maybe even more than that watch these videos. So, you can do it on the smallest possible level with zero budget. I also want to make sure that people understand that budget is not necessarily the bottleneck, I would say. Shouldn't be the bottleneck.
But from let's say from the resources side or from the team side, am I correct to say, so you need somebody who would be preparing the scripts, right? So the person who kind of creates the storyline, right? Then
for the more creative videos, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the video guy, right? So the person who will be recording the videos, then editing, right? Somebody who will be editing and cutting them. And then anything else? Anybody else?
I would say an advertising expert. And first of all, somebody who posts the stuff with a good piece of copy, but that could also be the person writing the scripts. And I would say an advertising expert if you want to, after that, advertising towards your niche.
Perfect.
Yeah. But with the creative videos, the last thing that I want to say there is you want to find a good angle. So if you want to create good videos, creative videos, you want to find a good concept and a good angle. And that's usually some brainstorming. It requires some brainstorming of people who know the product and know the ICP very well. So that's something I would take on internally before taking it externally with any videographer or whatever. But yeah, I could talk about this for hours still, but I think we'll save that for the summit, right?
Absolutely, we should. There are a few questions that I think are worth answering, and always like to answer the audience questions.
Sure.
You mentioned several times advertising, and we had a question about it, like whether you have advertised at the beginning. But I'd just like to take this broader in terms of like how important do you think advertising is? Paid promotion of your videos or other content. When should you start with that? Should you start first organic or advertising? And like I said, like how important is that for a company to foresee that budget and how quickly?
Yeah. So what I always say is that you want to create good content first and then advertise with it. If you advertise with content that is not good, then you're basically paying to show more people your shit content, right? You're paying for the distribution of shit content. So try to master content creation first, get some engagement on your post, and after that, boost it. Now, when I started off, I didn't pay for ads because I didn't have money for ads. I think I started paying for ads after like 2 years when we were in a healthy financial position. So if you have the money, definitely do it. If you have good content. If you don't have good content, fix your content problem first, because advertising is not going to fix your content problem. But like right now, we are a healthy company, and I spend a couple €1,000 a month to make sure that my ICP sees us constantly. Yeah, I'm happy to do so.
Love it. We have a couple of questions that I think we need to cover, and then we are done for today with the stress testing of your framework. And by the way, guys, I dropped, and me and Vlad, we dropped the links in the chat to the Full Funnel Summit. Make sure to sign up and bring your colleagues, your team. Would love to see all of you at the summit. And the question that I think it's a good one from Angelica. Several years ago, LinkedIn, as it was already mentioned, was not that crowded. Right now, there is a feeling nobody reads or watches the content. 90% of posts are selling first and AI generated. You can write valuable content, do it by hands, but it won't win any longer. So what is the content to bring now? Don't you think that LinkedIn is dead in terms of awareness growing?
No, I don't think it's dead. I posted a video yesterday that reached 300,000 timelines and got like 2,100 likes. So it's definitely not dead. But you do have to probably try a little harder to get noticed, because LinkedIn is overflowing. Generally, the internet is overflowing with content because everybody's a creator right now, and AI is making it easier than ever before to create content. So yeah, you need to figure out what you can do to be just a little bit better than everything else that you see in your little niche, right? So there's no such thing as a quick hack to create awareness. You really have to be more thoughtful and more intentional than ever with your content. So also, when I think of content creation, I don't think of effectiveness, efficiency. I think of effectiveness. So I create a lot. I spend a lot of time writing a post. I spend a lot of time creating a video, and I'm more than happy to do so because I want good engagement. So it's definitely not that, but yeah, I think you need to be more intentional and spend more time and attention to creating good content in order to be able to stand out.
And I'll just wanted to drop 2 cents because I had a good anecdote around this. You said that everybody is creator and AI is kind of, everybody is using AI. And it's just the story that Vlad, you shared with me, because there are guys that's kind of quite consistent with LinkedIn creation, a well-known agency, but there was like a really hilarious anecdote where one of the employees posted that we have created an AI influencer that creates hundreds of videos for us and influence 2 million in pipeline. So Vlad left a comment, said, okay, guys, I checked your website, I checked your LinkedIn page, I checked your YouTube channel, I checked your Facebook, and I have never seen any video. So you're not even posting the video content. So I'm wondering, where is this AI influencer and how they're influencing these 2 millions of revenue? So sometimes people are just going nuts.
They make up shit, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But don't buy everything that people say online, for sure.
Very
but the most ridiculous part is that obviously they finish this post, like leave a comment and we'll send you our like playbook to create this, and people were commenting like crazy, playbook. And like, so this is what you need to keep in mind. And I just wanted to share our own experience. Our reach in terms of views, right? It's going down. It's like, I mean, whatever. Comparing to what we had 2 years ago, it's just peanuts. It's nothing.
Yeah.
But the funny fact is that in the last 2 years, what we are just seeing, we could like, with the decrease in LinkedIn reach, the pipeline of the quality of our pipeline, the quality of the companies that are reaching out to us, it's uncomparable. It's just like, it's getting, like if LinkedIn reach is going, like, let's say we have maybe experienced 5x decrease right now, more or less, or 7x, I don't know, right? Whatever. But the pipeline quality is like maybe 20 times better compared than it was 2 years ago. So my entire point is that maybe you're not getting the broader reach if you're like, for example, in our case, we are pretty niche. But it's just getting in front of the right people. So this is 100%. What I feel.
And you mentioned like you need to think about who your niche is, and then be a bit better than the other ones who are posting in that niche. So it's not like global. You don't have to beat everybody. It's about that industry. I think a lot of conservative industries, there is still a huge opportunity. Like nobody is doing anything like that.
For sure.
But I think like even before being better, I think you have to be relevant, right? And I think like a lot of companies or marketers or people who are trying this kind of like forget about that first part. And that was just a way for me to introduce the question here from Nena. To be relevant, obviously, you need to understand your ICP. So her question was about how do you figure out their pain points? How do you figure out what's actually relevant for them to create content for them? Do you have a process?
So very practically speaking, when we talk about our own content, we know the pains of the marketers more than anything else, right? So, that's also why it's so easy for us to create that content, because I know the pains of B2B marketers, because I work with them every single day, and I'm in 10 sales calls a day. So there, it's very easy for me. But when we work with clients, we interview their clients. So qualitative interviews. even if it's chats of 20 to 30 minutes of the people that we're trying to sell to, and just get as much information from them as possible about their pains, what makes them happy in the context of the solution, of course, is invaluable. And if that is not possible, because sometimes it's not possible when we talk about really big enterprise clients, and then the CEO of these clients, then we talk to sales, right? That's the second best person to talk to, because they talk to clients every single day, or customer success. So it's just talking to the prospects, which helps us to understand the prospects, basically. That's the very straightforward question answer.
You proved it yourself. You said, like, for us, we don't have to even interview because we know, but you are the subject matter expert. So if I had to create content for you, I would, and can't interview your customers, I will have to interview you. So I think you're proving the point that a good subject matter expert, especially somebody in sales who is actually sitting every day talking to the customers. The other day I was talking to a CMO, and he asked about, AI and what we need to focus on, like in terms of human IP versus AI, what will be automated, what we need to kind of nurture in-house. And our thoughts, one of the things that I was thinking about, actually nowadays you even need to have like more senior people, like the knowledge that these people have about your customers, about their pain points, and not just like abstract or general, but very specific. Like, let's say you're selling to different kinds of industries all over the world, but okay, now we are focused on, let's say, the German speaking mid-market manufacturing companies in industrial manufacturing, whatever, like very specific. And right now, because things are changing as well, so you want to talk to people who are actually in contact with those buyers, like daily or every week. And this is like invaluable. This is exactly the difference between good content and bad content starts there. And then of course you need to attract the attention and all the good stuff that you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, I do have to, because I only have 3% left on my computer, and I also have to rush to a different. But I also have another meeting at quarter to
no worries.
But
you were very generous with your time. Thank you so much. And we'll get a chance to finish this up in a month, about a month and a couple of weeks. Thank you so much.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was amazing. Thanks for the great questions, and very much looking forward to the summit. So everybody sign up. This is going to be good. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andrei. Thanks, Vladimir.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.